MJF is out and injured. So shoot injury to his hip and his arm and a couple of other things as well. Did you read? I skimmed through the big long article that I sent you, but there was one salient sentence paragraph in it that I'd like to read.
Salient meaning relative.
Yeah, the most relevant. Yeah, a relevant paragraph for our little segment here. And I skimmed all the way through it, and it almost comes across like an obituary of his AEW career. Like he's gone back through 5 years, reflected, and now is a new whatever it is. It's just like there's a bookmark here, and then it's the next chapter. So what he wrote at the end of it was, "I'm just so tired. That's the God's honest truth. My hip is a mess. My arm won't lift above my head. I'm on painkillers, which are not my thing. I can't sleep, but like I said earlier, I know it's not only me who's tired. I know our fans are a little tired of this run I've been on as well. And for the first time since this company started, I know there's some MJF fatigue, which is fine. By the way, no one stays hot forever. Right now, though, as I'm writing this, it's Wednesday morning. It's 3 days before World's End. That's the pay-per-view that's just taken place this weekend. It's 5 days from 5 years of MJF and AEW. I don't know what comes next." So, do you think the fans are sick of MJF? Is that the vibe you've been getting?
Oh, they may be sick of him in his present form. He needs an opponent. You can take a guy, say Jerry Lawler. You think Jerry Lawler didn't get old in Memphis? What do you think Jerry Jarrett, God rest his soul, a good man, what do you think Jerry Jarrett turned over that whole heel roster? Maybe not twice a year, but he would turn it over. And the main thing he would guarantee in turning over the roster and getting new people in was a heel that could go after Lawler, because that was new. And they would run through that in 6 months. And then guess what? Time for another heel. Jerry Jarrett called them fire-breathing dragons. Mm-hmm. And he was so interesting going up and down the road listening to his theory on that. And he was right. He says all of a sudden you have the king, he's riding into the kingdom, and all of a sudden there's this big fire-breathing dragons down in the south. And his loyal people would say, "Go, king, you need to come and take care of this fire-breathing dragon. He's scaring us." And then the dragon would move north a little bit, and then all the citizens would say, "King, you got to take care of him." And then finally the king would go and approach or confront the dragon. Then he'd have a series of matches that lasted about 2 months.
Well, he would lose his USWA title to them.
Or he would lose his title, or they would hurt him, or put him out for a week or 2 weeks. And then, of course, don't forget you had your added ingredient of Jimmy Hart managing that fire-breathing dragon. But in the end, truth and justice prevailed, and the king stood high above the kingdom with the belt in his hand, and everything was down to normal. Mm-hmm. But in the meantime, Jerry Jarrett, in his infinite wisdom, he would be starting another fire-breathing dragon, unbeknownst to everybody else, about a month before that. And by the time Lawler was the king, there was this other fire-breathing dragon he needed to take care of. Mm-hmm. And they rode that for 4 years, 5 years, that same theory. So he taught me a lot, but that's the one thing that you got to have an opponent for MJF. I don't think, who was that guy he was feuding with? Cole?
Oh, Adam Cole. Well, I'm going to bring up Adam Cole in a minute, actually. So we'll just briefly go with World's End, the pay-per-view. So MJF eventually loses the title. I think he held it for around a year or so. And I think part of the problem is with AEW is that they've lost, a couple of the main eventers, really. Because, I know Sting was never in the main event, but he's going soon. Kenny Omega's now injured. Adam Cole's injured, as I'll bring back in a minute. He was facing Samoa Joe on this pay-per-view. And Samoa Joe's last big match, he was on another pay-per-view in between, but Samoa Joe, on his last really big match, was All in Wembley or All Out Wembley. I can never remember which one it's called. And he lost in the opener, clean, to CM Punk. And then a few months later, he is now defeated pretty much clean MJF for the world title. So I don't think people saw Samoa Joe as too strong of a challenger in that sense. And then after, because Adam Cole was outside supporting MJF, and then a couple of minutes later, Adam Cole is revealed to be the devil of AEW with his henchmen. And the mystery of who's the devil after all these months turns out to be the most obvious person, which was Adam Cole. And I think a lot of people have said that that whole storyline's missed the mark in the sense of two reasons. One, the devil ended up being the exact person. It sort of made the most sense, but there was no surprise to it. And two, it went on too long. And then three, who's feuding with who now? Because Adam Cole's injured and now MJF's injured. So where's the fight?
I never got to the devil driving the car up or whatever he was doing. The little bit I watched of it, I don't think nobody gave a shit, because I didn't. It didn't interest me. It didn't.
Is it because they're all masked? Is it because they're all masked and you have no idea who any of these people are for months, and then at some point the mystery is just like, let's just get it over with and move on?
It's almost sudden it's wrapped it up. It's almost like watching one of these things on Netflix. All of a sudden they tell a pretty good story, but come to the finish, they don't know how to wrap it up. They don't know how to end it. It's almost like watching Game of Thrones. When they got ready to wrap it like they just rushed through it.
Yeah.
Great series. But then I said, we're gone. We might see you in a couple of years, maybe. But
it's almost like Lost in a sense as well, because that went on for too long and then they wrapped it all really quickly.
Well, I think the old school approach, that Masked Man, you can't take that went on for what, 2 months?
4? I
4
think
months?
You've gone for like 4 months, at least 3. Yeah, went on for
That's
ages.
too long. Listen, let's go ahead and let's shoot the thing and see what it does. Why put 4 months in something when you're not assured, and you can never be assured of how something is going to do in wrestling anyway, but shorten it down and see what it's going to do. Because you're going to be in the same spot, surely.
But now there's no follow-up, because you've got the antagonist and protagonist are both hurt, and neither of them look like they're going to be wrestling for at least a few more months. So,
and look at the followers. None of them have any heat. None of them. They're just guys. And nobody cares. Who are the followers?
I wrote them down. Roderick Strong, who has been rather amusing with, wrestling in a neck brace and pretending he's injured, and then he wrestles like a total normal match.
Zero heat. And wrestling in a neck brace and pretending you're in heat, that should elicit sympathy instead of, not liking you. Who's the other guy?
Wardlow.
Zero heat.
And the tag team of the Kingdom. And if you ask me who the Kingdom are, I can't remember. So there you go. That answers your question of how much heat they've got.
So there's a lot of guys over there that just go to the ring and you kind of know who they are. It's almost out of sight, out of mind. And that's what it is. If Tony had somebody that knew anything about booking, because I think his booking is strange to me, and he gets exactly what he's getting, but I think he needs some help.
Now, let me just add this. Rumours are now speculating, though how realistic they are is very much up for debate, is that MJF may end up heading to WWE like he threatened to in storyline and then out of storyline a couple of years ago. When he had that, you'll remember this, when he disappeared from AEW for months over a quote-unquote contract issue, and we don't know how real or born out of reality that story was. But we don't know now if he's signed an extension or a new contract with AEW, or if his contract is running up as well, which is another story. But there's been the odd rumour here and there that MJF is going to WWE, which will certainly give Cody Rhodes something to do, if that's the case.
Yeah, they're going to listen, his character there, that he's already established, by the way. MJF, you kind of know his character anyway. WWE, they will take that and they will accent it and they will enhance it to where, I mean, you just look at their roster right now. I think you could almost go in there and in 3 weeks shoot an angle between Dominic and MJF, and it would go. I don't know what they do with it, but I'm saying it's not going to be a Madison Square Garden main event. But he's already over, is what I'm saying. MJF is already established in the wrestling world. In the wrestling realm, MJF, if he can use that name, I guess, and he's a good heel. He is personally dislikable too. You want to slap, that's what a good heel is. You want to slap the living dog shit out of him. And he's not that big. He's what, 5'10", maybe?
No, funny, in that article, he describes himself as 5'8".
He could be. But sometimes heels not being very big is good, because every guy and about half the women think they can beat his ass. And they would just like to walk up to him and just slap the dog shit out of him. That's the part of being a good heel. And he is a good heel. Because when he singles somebody out in the crowd, I mean, I love that heel that can touch nerves. And when they can touch nerves, they can go anywhere they want to go if they know what they're doing.